What's up, guys? It's a slow day, and there's something I've always wanted to talk about, and I just never got the chance to, or just whenever I'm gonna do a video, it's just I kind of forget about it. But I've always had a chip on my shoulder about a specific game that I'm gonna talk about. But I'm also gonna talk about it because, in a way, it ties in with some of the stuff I've been talking about in terms of DLC and the downfall of the gaming industry and where things are headed and why it's important for us as a community, as consumers, to fight back and not, you know, not give our money to developers or publishers for this stuff because it's just ruining the games that we get. Now, the game I'm going to talk about is Max Payne 3, and it's a Rockstar game. You guys know I love Rockstar. I love the games that they make, great, high quality games. But they're not, they certainly have problems as a company. I was going to say they're not perfect, but they have some serious issues. Things that I've talked about, like, they announce a game and then like years before it sees the light of day. I think it's completely unnecessary, and it's not even a marketing thing. They just do it to appease shareholders. They just want them to know that there's a project that's coming, and even though it's very far away, it just helps with the stock of the company. It's not for us as consumers, it's for the shareholders. So, which is why we still sit around and we're waiting for more news on Red Dead Redemption 2. And did I say that right? Okay, I'll just leave it at RDR2. Um, and you get a trailer. A year goes by, we get a second trailer and some tentative spring date. We don't know when the game's really coming out, and there's no news. So who knows? But that is something I've always hated about Rockstar as a company. Um, I hate that they do that. Don't even tell people about the existence of a project or a game until it's 6 months, at least 6 months away, or less. I would prefer less. You don't need that much time to market any game. So, this isn't really about that, but when I talk about Rockstar and stuff like that, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Now, the game that I was talking about is Max Payne 3. It's a game that I feel is one of the most underrated games that have ever come out. It's really great. Most of the game is great, but there's some serious issues. Before I get into that, the game came out in 2012, I believe. So it's a pretty old game. It's the servers are still up. I still play the game from time to time. It's the first game I got into online. I never played games online until that game came out, and the reason is because that game is really addictive. The gameplay is fantastic. The just the gameplay mechanics and the online multiplayer in that game is very simple. Uh, it's death matches. So there's nothing that's revolutionary or mind blowing about the online, but it's simple, but it works. It's just something that you don't get tired of. It never gets old or repetitive, even though it kind of is repetitive. For example, for those of you who are confused about what I'm saying, if you've ever played a game like Tetris, it is incredibly repetitive, right? It's just like a simple concept, but you don't get tired of it. It's like addictive, and you can't stop playing it. It never gets old. And in many ways, Max Payne 3 is like that. It's just death matches, but I loved it. Now the problem with Max Payne 3, first of all, the game, it didn't sell as well as Rockstar was hoping it would sell. Okay? It did sell well, for most people, but for Rockstar, you know, for what their expectations were, I just don't think it sold as well as they were anticipating. And they gave up on that game really fast. And that's one of the things that have pissed me off. And it was my first real experience with seeing where the gaming industry was headed. And it was going downhill, and I kind of noticed it with this game, and I said, there's something going on here, and I don't like it. And I wasn't 100% sure about what was happening, but I saw it. And what I'm talking about is the online multiplayer. At first, it was excellent. It was just, I remember having so much fun with that game. I made a lot of friends online, and I spent a lot of time on it. But then they released DLC, okay? And initially, I didn't have a problem with it because the DLC had map packs, and the maps were pretty decent. And if you played a lot of the online, these additional maps added a lot to the game. And along with the maps, it did add extra weapons and a bomb suit. Now, this is where the problem really exposed itself. First of all, they were supposed to start really cracking down on hacking and people exploiting glitches and stuff like that. And it never really happened. You know, you have guys, even till this day, like I said, I still play the game, but it's frustrating. Almost every lobby has at least one person invisible. And they just walk around the map killing people, completely invisible, and, you know, they just kill like 30 people and never die once. And you just die, and you see, you know, every time in the online when you get killed by another player, you see who it is, and you can see a picture of them shooting you or whatever the case is. But when the invisible guy does it, you don't see anyone there. You just see the background of wherever he was standing, but it's just nothing there. So you know they're invisible. And Rockstar never cracked down on it. They just didn't care. And the reason they just stopped caring was because the game, like I said, for them, was the sales numbers were disappointing. It's not like Grand Theft Auto 5 that they still support, and they really put a lot of work into it. It's the opposite of what they did with Max Payne, but the difference being that GTA still sells. That the game still sells. People still buy copies of the game, even years after its release. So they're making a killing off that game, so it serves them to continue to support it. But with Max Payne 3, they didn't care. It was like, whatever. And when they released the DLC, it completely threw the entire game. Forget about the hacking and the glitching, alright? I mentioned that, and that's on the side. But it's one of the most unbalanced games I've ever seen or played. Because after the DLC came out, all you had was people in bomb suits running around with overpowered weapons. And if you didn't have the DLC and you didn't have that stuff, it was like a guy with a machine gun going up against a tank. Because the bomb suits make you almost indestructible. And then on top of that, the other thing that was part of the game, even before the DLC, which is something that, why would you introduce this into the game? I don't know. But it completely makes the game unbalanced. Unless everyone used it. It's just, there was a thing called a burst. And you had like, I'm just going to throw a number out there, like 20 different bursts. Right? So depending on what you use, there's a meter on the side. And every time you kill someone, that meter fills up. And it's cut off in 3 sections. So you could have it a third full, 2/3 full, or full. And depending on where it was in the meter, when you hit the burst, it gave you some different kind of ability, or just it did something. And the big dog burst, I fucking hated this thing from day one. But it's basically the equivalent of a painkiller. And those of you who've played Max Payne, any of the games, you know that a painkiller is just something that replenishes your health at any time that you use it. So the big dog burst basically almost gives you unlimited health replenishment. Not unlimited, but almost, because every time you shoot somebody, it fills the meter to a point, at least to a point where you can replenish your health. So if you combine that with the bomb suit, it makes players virtually indestructible. You can shoot these people and spend almost 80% of your ammo before you can kill them. And it really depends what weapon you use. So it completely unbalanced the game. It ruined all the competition. And it forced people to buy DLC, if not forced, but this is what I'm talking about with DLC and all this pay-to-play microtransaction garbage. They make it so that technically the games are unbalanced. And you can't just face other players without there being a completely unfair balance where they have things that you didn't pay for or chose not to pay for, but they have an advantage. So they completely and purposely unbalance these games to force you to, in order to be competitive, if you want to play online, that you kind of have to buy this stuff. And I knew then, when I played this game is about 5 years old now, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, and I knew then, I said, this is fucked up. This game is completely unbalanced. And you go out there, and these guys, they're all in bomb suits, and they have that big dog burst. And then they have the sawed-off shotgun, which you can blast people from a ridiculous distance, almost a third of the map away. So the thing that really bothered me with the bomb suit is that everything should have a pro and a con. So the bomb suit makes you more impervious to damage, but at the same time, it should slow you down. You shouldn't run as quickly as I can. You shouldn't be able to do jumps and flips, which is a big part of Max Payne. Alright? And I mean, diving and flipping and all this stuff. There should be a penalty. You should be running around at the pace of a slug. So it should make you very slow, difficult to move around. That's called balance. So if you can use certain things and it gives you an advantage, but there should also be a disadvantage to that stuff. And there isn't. There never was. And Rockstar never addressed that problem. They never bothered to fix it because it doesn't pay for them. They want people to buy DLC so that they can have this stuff just to make things even. Now, I'm the type of person that plays games. I play games different than most people. Most people run around out in the open just blasting away at everything that moves. I don't get the same level of satisfaction playing that way that most people do. I'm more of a stealth guy. I like to kind of sneak around, hide. Yeah, I know a lot of people. I used to have a lot of people curse me out and say I'm a camper, whatever. But I like using some form of strategy. I get more out of that. I get more pleasure out of it. I enjoy playing games that way. I like stealthy gameplay. I like sneaking up on people. I like, plotting, how to do certain things. I think it takes more skill to do that than to wear a suit that makes you indestructible and just walk around the map and just blow people away, and it takes most of their ammo to kill you. I don't see any, just don't like that. I don't play that way, and that's fine, to each his own. But when you got 80% of the people playing using this stuff, you're at a tremendous disadvantage. And I wrote to Rockstar support. I remember about at least 5, 6 times. And I told them, please do something about this. First of all, get rid of or fix these glitches where people can exploit and run around invisible. This is destroying the game. You haven't done anything about it. And they never did anything about it. I told them, please do something to balance the weapons. Okay? Get rid of that big dog burst. It's ruining the game. Or at least make it where you can't use it with the bomb suit at the same time. The shotguns, make it so that they can only kill you from a short distance. It's a sawn-off shotgun. Anybody who understands these weapons knows that beyond a certain distance, it's just pellets or whatever. It shouldn't have the same effect. And these guys are killing you from a ridiculous distance, diving through the air, running and flipping, wearing these. You see these bomb suits? If you ever seen a bomb suit, this is exactly what they are. And it just looks like a giant, hefty plastic bag. It's just unbalanced. So they never even responded to me. That's another thing. Rockstar has a terrible reputation with their support. So that game is my first experience in what DLC was going to do to the gaming industry. I just wanted to bring that up, get that off my chest. It's always been something that really bothered me. I still play the game because, like I said, at its heart, at its core, it's still a great game. And anyone who's never played it, man, I'm sure you could pick it up for cheap. The story mode, everything, the offline, it's worth it just for the offline. But when you go online, it's a fucking mess. It is one of the things that pissed me off the most about Rockstar. They should be ashamed of themselves, and they only abandoned that game because it didn't have the sales numbers that they were expecting. And it's a fucking shame because it's a great game, and they don't give a fuck about it. They just abandoned it. Now you play, if you go online, I swear there can't be more than 200 people in playing this game. It's the same fucking group of people every time I go in. When you play Grand Theft Auto, every time you go on, it's a whole new group of people because there's so many people playing it. But with this game, it's down to like 200 people. And even then, I'm being generous. It's the same group of people again and again. And it's the same people using the invisibility hack. And it's the same fucking people going in and just getting 35 kills, dying maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire match. The people with the bomb suits and the big dog burst and all that stuff. And it's all bullshit, you know? It's like you bought DLC and now you have an unfair advantage. And I know there are people saying, well, you should just do it too. I don't think that way. I'm not going to just reward a system that I don't believe in, that I think is only contributing to the destruction of the industry as a whole. And I told you guys in the last video, I'm telling you now, this business model is dying, and I trust me, they're going to come out soon, and they'll be putting out games that are only available to rent. I'm just telling you, there's going to be a big change. They're just going to continue to try to monetize and max out what they squeeze out of people. And maybe old games that they may make a comeback. People may want to go out and buy old games and old consoles just to enjoy games that they actually could still own. Because it's changing, and I see it coming. And I'm telling you, I really started seeing it with Max Payne 3. So I don't know if any of you guys have played that game. I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. But that's one of the most frustrating game experiences I've ever had. And it's really because I love that game so much. It's such a great game at its core. And it's just a shame. They gave up on it, and they used the online to purposely make the game unbalanced so that you feel like you have to buy the DLC just to be competitive. So just something I was always wanted to talk about and get off my chest, and it's frustrating. It's one of the things I really hated most about Rockstar. So I look forward to your comments, and what do you guys think, those of you who've played the game? And that's it. I'm out.